When I was in graduate school, I did my internship at Cincinnati Children's, and it was a preschool that was working with children that have been through some type of significant trauma or abuse. And so my supervisor was in the CAT program at the time, and she would send me articles to read. Of course, at the time, I was really struggling to understand what they were, but she would educate me along the way. And she taught me Floor Time with Alan Greenspan, and she was able to kind of introduce to me more psychoanalytic themes that spurred me on to want more. And then my supervisor at the agency that I work for was also I went to CPI for the APP program, and so he introduced the pre-cap. And so I went to the pre-cap, and then at that point I decided to go on to the CAP program just from the positive experience I had.
It kind of got short shrift in school, I feel like, for me. You know, there's a nod to Freud or to Erikson, but I feel like largely it was treated more like, oh, this is this thing that people used to do. It's kind of quaint or something to that effect. And so I didn't really get a whole lot of exposure other than, you know, Freud and Erikson.
I was interested in CBT, and when I was in the program, they encouraged CBT because it was like the building blocks of therapy, if you could get CBT down. So when I wrote my theoretical orientation paper in grad school, I used CBT. I had no interest in Freud. I had thought that maybe it was outdated.
But I went to private practice, and a lot of my peers that I respected as clinicians had been involved with the Institute. And so they're the ones who suggested, oh, you should check that out.
And so when my supervisor in my internship showed it to me, I was amazed by how well, like, it just fit with these kids.
Well, I think I had a natural proclivity to think about situations in a psychological way. And so when I saw a brochure, I thought, this is for me. I waited a while, and then I finally took the leap when time was right, and after being in the field and working and knowing that I wanted to learn more. So I made the call and found out more.
I feel like when I first started, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy was basically what people are trained on, at least for me. I think part of it is, you know, the impact of the HMOs and managed care and whatnot. And I found that when I first started, that worked really well for me because I started off doing sort of intensive crisis-based, brief treatment. So I'd stabilize someone, and then we'd move them on to someone else. But then when I moved on to private practice, the pace was so much different. Things were more nuanced. You know, there was more chronic issues, and I was the person that the people were passed off to. And that's what made me get interested in coming to the Institute.
I think these other training methods that people have already understood are helpful, but I think that to understand the foundational principles and to go deeper under the surface are so important. So if you can understand something psychodynamically, it's very important, and then you build upon that by helping a person, a child, a family to understand what's going on under the surface, and side by side help them with those skills. So I think that if a person is already trained in DBT or CBT, this is helpful. So we have access to PEP, which is the Psychoanalytic Electronic Publishing website, which is a plethora of material and articles at our disposal throughout the course.
The two classes in theory and in technique has really been a very broad yet helpful approach to better understand these articles that can be very dense. And then the discussions help when I don't understand parts of the article. We can sit in class and explore all those types of things.
The teachers are great. They are the heart and core of the programs. They really, really care about students. They're well-versed in all of the topics, and they know these articles in and out, and then they still read them again in order to prepare for us to come to class and to have a fresh discussion each week.
They're like, well, I've read this article, but I've read this article 7 times. And so I'm like, well, that's why they understand it better, is because they've read it so many times.
Some of the articles are extremely interesting, but can be a little bit more opaque or a little bit less connected from maybe what you see in the room. But when you get an opportunity to to talk about a concept, and then in the next class or in supervision to talk about actual cases you've had, it really kind of can make some of these harder to grasp concepts really become real in your mind. I think that was very helpful.
I think we need more people in the world who understand these concepts and can help children and families understand themselves.
And I think when you have that education, you realize, like, what was I doing before? Like, you know, because you have more knowledge, you have a better understanding of what you're doing with a child. You feel more equipped.
I think the clinical piece is something that's not delved into as deeply as it should be. And when I think about getting a deep understanding of what it's like to be in a room with someone and try to understand their perspective and what's happening in their minds, I feel like this approach is, you know, it's, you know, I think above all others in my perspective.